The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Instagram Stories are a great way to post impromptu content and really easy to use. If you didn't know, they hang around for 24 hours. Well, mostly, but we'll come on to that later. And they're a brilliant way to showcase your business. Now, I do want you to ask questions as we go along in this webinar. I've left plenty of time at the end to go through them, and you can do that by typing in the questions box. So you should see that on your screen in your GoToWebinar control panel. And if you head there now, just type in where you're joining this webinar from today so that I can see that you found that questions box. I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds to type in where you're joining from today. Hi, Paul, Whitney, London. Who else? Huntingdon. Hi, Christy. Or Kirsty, sorry, I can't see. Hayley, Daventry, Whitney in Oxfordshire. Oh, I know Whitney. One of my best friends used to live in Whitney. Lincolnshire. Hi, Paul. In fact, Paul's partner used to live in Lincolnshire. Jules. Hi, Jules. Northwest London. Any more? We all get where that questions box is. That's brilliant. So keep asking your questions in that box as we go along, and I will answer as many as I can when we get to the end. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that the webinar is being recorded, so don't worry if you don't manage to write everything down. I will send out the recording to you in the next few days. Okay, well, let's look at what we're going to cover today. Firstly, I'm going to tell you why you should be using Instagram Stories, and I think you might be a little bit surprised at some of the reasons. Next, I'm going to take you through exactly how to create a story. I know it can be nerve-wracking trying something new, so we're going to alleviate those nerves today. We want people to react to our stories, so I'll talk you through some of the inbuilt features to help you get that all-important engagement. And lastly, remember I said that stories last 24 hours? Well, that's not exactly true. Highlights is a way to keep them forever, and I'll show you how to create your own highlights. Before we get started, I have a question for you. Do you already use Instagram Stories? So I'm just going to launch a poll, which you should see on your screens, and I'll give you a few minutes to answer that question. Do you already use Instagram Stories? So let's have a look, see what the answers are. People are answering. Are we any more for any more? Let's have a look. Any more votes coming in? I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so very cool. So we're in the right place today. Only 24% of you are already using Instagram Stories. So I'm hoping today I'll teach you something new that you can implement. But 76% of you are not using them. So you're absolutely in the right place, because we are going to go through how you put together your first story. Now, remember, don't forget to keep asking your questions in the question box as we go through the different sections. Also, if you hear me go quiet for a little while, that's me taking a sip of my tea. So don't think I've gone away. Right, let's move on. Before we kick off, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a small business owner for just over 3.5 years. Before that, I was head of marketing for the UK for a company called Constant Contact, which does email marketing. It was there that I was bitten by the small business bug. I help small business owners like you bring out that marketer from within. And believe me, that marketer is there. I demystify marketing and make it easy for you to get results and find new and repeat business. So whether you want to know how to use email marketing or social media, or you want to learn how to run a marketing campaign, I can help you get there and faster than you would on your own. I'm an official Facebook social media trainer, and I host She Means Business meetups on their behalf in my area. So some of the content that you will see in here is actually from Facebook, because Facebook owns Instagram. Finally, you can connect with me on all the places on the slide, and I'd love to connect with you on your network of preference. There's also a link there for you to sign up to my weekly marketing emails, and I'll include that link in the email when I send out the webinar recording. Now, if you feel like creating a story as we go along in this webinar and following the steps, do have a go at that. Get your phone out and follow the steps as we go along. Remember to tag me in it so I can see it. I'd love to see what your first story is that you post. On Instagram, as you can see on the screen there, I am Marketing by Manal. And through this, as we go through the steps, I'll show you how you can tag me in that story, so I can see what you've put together. So none of us has time to generate lots of content, right? We have businesses to run and they need to pay the bills. So why should you use Instagram stories? Well, there are several reasons. It's great for casual content. It's the stuff that happens in your business and you think, oh, that would be great for social, and then you forget because you have to plan it. With stories, you can take out your phone, shoot, and add to your story straight away. It really helps add personality to your business. We forget that people need to get to know, like, and trust us, especially if you're a service provider. And showing your personality helps you to achieve this. Now, I'm quite nosy, so I love taking a peek behind the scenes of a business, and stories is the perfect way to show behind the scenes of your business. And it helps with that personality thing, right? They're a great way to get feedback or do a bit of research, and I'll show you some of the features that will help you do that. Lastly, there are 500 million daily active stories users. That is huge, and your audience is viewing stories, so why shouldn't they look at one from you? So now you know why you should use stories. Let's move on to how you do it. As I mentioned, it can be nerve-wracking trying something new for the first time. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to break down how you create an Instagram story. It's pretty similar for Facebook as well. So, if you want to start experimenting there, the steps are pretty similar and you can do that. So here's what my Instagram looks like. On the left-hand side, when I open the app on my phone, that's what I see on my phone. And the first thing you need to do when you get into the app is select the Instagram camera. And what that does is it'll open up the camera, and what that looks like on my phone is the picture on the right. So you have quite a few features in that camera, and what I'm going to do now is take you through those features. So under the white button, you'll see various options for the camera. These are Create, which you can just see is off to the left. We'll go into more detail in that shortly. It's a new feature from Instagram, and it's really exciting and very engaging. Normal is how you take a photo. Boomerang. So boomerangs are short videos, and they capture a movement, and the video is the movement being repeated. So maybe you're standing in the door of your business and you're waving, and that boomerang will just keep repeating that wave. So, and they're really good. They're quite short, and if you're a bit nervous about creating videos, this is a good way to get started. Super zoom, which is brilliant. It slowly zooms in on the object or the person that you're taking a photo of. And you can also overlay things on the photo. So you could choose an overlay, for example, hearts, there's fire, there's a bunch of different ones. Hands-free, so it lets you record a video hands-free. So you tap and release the button to get started. And pick from gallery, so that on the screen for you, that's on the bottom left, and it allows you to choose photos that you've already taken. Now, to move between those different features, all you do is slide those features along until you get to the one that you want to use. Cool, so we know what the different camera features are. Let's move on. Have I skipped a slide? No, I haven't. Okay, so remember I said that you're not limited to just taking photos that you snap on your camera. You can use what you've already got there. So you can see here that this is my gallery. So these are all the screenshots that I was taking for this webinar as I was creating the content. And you can choose a single photo, or you can choose multiple photos, so up to 10 images, by selecting the multiple picker. So you can see there at the top, there's that little thing, the little multiple. It's got 3 or 4 different squares on it, and when you choose that, you can pick multiple images. And what you do is you click in those circles in the top right and pick all the images that you want, and then you can use those. So all the photos that you take thinking that you'll use them and then you forget, you can now use for stories. Now remember, don't forget to keep your questions coming. I'll go through as many as I can at the end. This is the really cool bit. So once you've taken your photo or you've added your image, you can add stickers and text to your images. Now, what we're going to focus on, if you look at this image here, these are muffins that I baked at the weekend. They were really good. But if you look at the options at the top, what we're going to focus on are the 3 options that are on the right-hand side of the image. So the first, the capital A and the small a. So if you tap on that, that lets you type text into the story, and that overlays that on top of your image. The little squiggle, there's any different amount of pens, pencils, and an eraser. Now you might want to draw attention to something in your picture, so you can pick a pen and draw a circle around it, or there are some cool tricks as well that you can do that involve using the pen. And the third one is, it looks like a little post-it note with a smiley face on it. That's where the stickers live. And stickers are brilliant. They add fun and engagement to your stories. So let's go through these in a little bit more detail. So let's start with stickers. When you tap that little post-it with the smiley face on it, it brings you to this menu. And there are any number of stickers. In fact, it was too long for me to capture all of it. But here are the ones that are kind of on the top of the options for me. Now, the ones that I want you to focus on are the 3 at the top. So let's start from the left, location. So for example, if you're at an event and you want to create a story about that event, you can use that location sticker to tell people where you are. Now, conversely, you can encourage people that come into your business. If you have a physical premises, you can encourage people to create stories and tag your business into that story. So it's a really good feature to use. The middle one is the mention one. So remember, I said if you want to follow along and create your first story today, tag me in it, mention me in your story. So when you pick that mention sticker, you can search for people and you can mention them in your story. So if you're creating your story now and you want me to see it, tap that mention sticker and then search for Marketing by Manal, and you will find me and you can tag me in that story. The next one is hashtag, and we all know, well, you may not know, but Instagram is quite hashtag driven. It's probably alongside Twitter, it's probably the one that uses hashtags most. So you can add a hashtag to your story. That sticker will let you do that, and you again tap it, it adds it to your screen, and you start typing, and it will kind of suggest some hashtags for you. If you want to add more than one hashtag, you can add them to your typewritten text, so that when you type some text on it, you can add some additional hashtags there. Now you can see any number of hashtags on that screen, and it makes it really engaging. So you can insert a poll. Maybe you're doing a static image and you want to add some movement to it. If you tap on GIF, you can search for any number of GIFs. Much to my dismay, England did not win the Rugby World Cup final. I was very disappointed, but I was going into that GIF function and searching England rugby and finding all sorts of rugby related GIFs that I could add to my stories, which you may have seen if you follow me in the last few weeks. Questions, so people can ask you a question. So if you use that sticker, anyone can ask you a question, which then pops up in your DMs, and you can answer those questions. Countdown is great. I use that quite often for when I've got an event coming up, a big in-person event, let's say, and I use that countdown sticker to tell people about it and tell people how long they've got to book their place. You can see that slider, so you can get people's feelings on different things. So maybe you're introducing a new product or service and you want people to tell you how they feel about it. So you can use that slider. There's a quiz. There's a chat, so you can use that chat sticker, and anyone who taps on it can join a chat with you. So there's any number of stickers that you can use in there. The possibilities are not quite endless, but there is a lot in there, and there's a lot for you to experiment with. And don't feel scared to experiment, because you know, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, you can just delete the story and nobody will be any the wiser. No one will have seen it. So do take the time to experiment with those. The next thing is text. So when you hit that, tap that capital A and the small a on the story screen, the initial screen, it will bring you to a screen like this. And you can just start typing and it will add the text to that screen. Now let's go through some of these features here. So this on the top left hand side in the corner, that is your text alignment. So you can center it, left align it, right align it. This A here, what it allows you to do is put a coloured border, a coloured background behind your text. So you type your text and then you can pick any of the colours below to highlight, put a background around your text. In the middle, this lets you choose what type of text. Now, this background only works with some of these different text functions. It's almost like choosing a different font. So it definitely works with the classic. So when you tap through here in the middle to choose your text type, as soon as that A appears, you know you can add a border behind it, a background. I keep calling it a border, a background behind the text. And this little slider that you can just see here helps you make the text bigger or smaller, so you can size it to whatever you want. Once you finish typing, you hit the little tick in the top right hand corner, and this may be different. The placements may be different depending on your phone, but all the functions should be the same. So you hit that tick, you tap on it, and then that will add the text to your story. And if you tap and hold that text, you can move it around the screen, so you can place it where you want it to go. I'm just going to have a little sip of tea, which is still very hot. Oh my gosh. Okay. Right. So that all important engagement, how do we get that? So just as there is a live function on Facebook, there is one on Instagram. And when you go into your stories camera and you go to this bottom menu, if you slide along and go all the way to the left on my menu, you will get to live. And you can use this to get engagement for things like big announcements or a product, like a product launch, or you can choose to do a different live every week on various topics. When you go live, your followers will be notified that you're live, and it's a great way to engage with your followers. But there is more. So remember the create feature that I talked about. This is new and it gives you lots of options to create stories that get interaction. So let's go through these. So as you slide along this menu at the bottom, you get to create the very first thing that you come to is templates. It is the tap to type. So on this, you don't have to have taken a photograph. You can just type in your message and choose that as the story that you're going to use. In the bottom right hand corner of the screen, there is a little circle with a graded color. That's where you can choose the different colors for the background. So I think I think there might be about 5 or 6 different colours that you can choose from. I tend to stick with this one because it's the closest to my purple. Once you've typed in your text, all you do is hit that button again with the capital A and the small a, and that finishes it off. And then it takes you back to that screen where you can add your stickers, your location sticker, your hashtag sticker. You might want to add a GIF. So you can do all of that with this tap to type template. So it might be just a quick message that you want to send to people, or you might say to people, "Oh, excited! Got an announcement coming soon. You know, keep your eyes peeled for more information." So creatively, it's up to you what you put on there. The next thing is adding a GIF to your story. So this function lets you choose a GIF, and again, it's the same as trying to find a GIF with the stickers GIF, but this makes it all. This is your entire story. Once you've tapped in this box, there's the you know what you want to search for. It will give you options. You pick the one that you want. Once you're happy, again, you tap that button in the middle to settle on your on the GIF and move on to the different steps, the next steps to create your story. Next up is templates. When I went into this is the first one that came up. There are choices, so you can just about see the dice in the top, in the middle, and if you tap on that, it will take you through the different templates that are available. When you're happy with the one that you've got, again, you tap that middle button and it adds it to your story, and then you can finish it off. So with this one, you might want to put a picture of, I don't know, a crazy head dog in there, which kind of depicts how you woke up, or you might want to put someone just holding a coffee mug saying, "I'm desperate for coffee," whatever it is that you want to do, and then you follow the next steps to actually finish off your story. Next up, we've got on this day. So I think if you use Facebook, you'll be familiar with the memories feature. So in Instagram, it actually lets you share that as a story. So if you tap on this day, you can see that when I did it, it came up with a post that I put out 2 years ago, saying that I'm going live again. So I was probably going live on my Facebook page, letting people know that. And you know, if there's something interesting or something that you really are happy to go and look back on, or you want to celebrate, it's an anniversary or something, you can add that to your story. Now remember, once you're happy with this, you tap on that middle button again to add it to your story, and then you continue by adding your stickers and then actually putting it out onto your story. Next up, polls. So you've got the poll sticker, but you can have a whole story that's a poll. And again, you can see the dice at the top, which means that every time you see that, you can keep tapping until you get to the poll that you want to ask. So all you do is tap in your question, and once you're happy with what you've got here, tap that middle button, it'll add it to your story. And again, as per normal, you add your stickers and then you send it to your story. The next one is questions. I like this because people might want to ask you a question about your business, or they might have questions about your business that they had never thought of, but you've given them a chance to ask you. So people tap in that grey box, and what it does is it comes through to your direct messages, so you can answer questions. And again, you've got the dice at the top, which means that there are different templates, different things available. So tap through until you find the thing that you want to use. Countdown. So we've got the countdown sticker, but you've got this whole countdown thing here, which just adds it to a background. And again, you've got the dice at the top, so you can change what the countdown is. This is all editable, so you could have this countdown and edit this quitting time to whatever it is that you want. And again, that'll put it in your story, and people can see what you're counting down to. Finally, there is the quiz function. So I like this because again, it encourages people to really interact with the stories that you put up there, and it makes it fun, and it makes people feel like that they can take part, and you're not just broadcasting news to them, you're getting feedback from them. This one I like because, you know, it says guess my favorite ice cream, but you could be somebody who makes ice cream, and I know there is a business in the Small Biz 100 this year that is an ice cream shop, and they make their own ice cream. And you could be doing some research. So instead of guess my favorite ice cream, the question could be, what flavor shall we make next? And there could be two options, and you could get your followers to vote on the flavor that they want you to make next. So you can see how all of these templates, these create templates, are designed for interaction, and they're great. And I've tried a few, and people have responded to them. So if you're stuck for ideas, head to that create function and be inspired to, you know, put up a story that perhaps you weren't thinking about, and that just gets your followers involved in what's going on with you. So let's look at some ideas for your stories that you can use today. I'm sure you'll find something on this screen. So behind the scenes, as I've said, you know, people like to get to know, trust in people before they buy from them, and doing things, showing behind the scenes, is actually a really great way to help people to do that. If you're at an event, a few weeks ago, actually last month, I went to the Festival of Female Entrepreneurs, and throughout the event I created some stories that I added to my own feed that showed what was going on during the day. Motivational quotes are great. You can add those, you can create your own ones, or you can overlay text on pictures that you've already taken. They work really well on Instagram. You can get your followers to ask you questions. So remember that ask question, the question sticker, or the questions template. So get them to ask you questions. And you never know, you know, you might get a lot of very similar questions that you can then turn into content. So you might be able to turn it into a blog post or a video, or maybe some images that you share on social media that give people the answers. Show off your customers. You know, you have customers that are you know, doing great things. They're either using your product in a unique way, or they're succeeding at training that you've given them. Show them off and let people see how they are working with you, and you know, maybe you will inspire some of your followers not only to work with you, but give them ideas that they may never have thought of in the first place. You could run a competition using stories. So I know Paul, who's on this webinar, was messaging me yesterday or the day before, because he's following somebody on Instagram that was running a competition on their page, and part of the competition, part of the thing that you had to do was share their post to your story. So you could do that. Do some research, you know, ask questions, have those polls, use those poll stickers to help you understand what your followers want, what kind of thing they need from you. You can build excitement. Maybe you've got a product launch coming up, or an event, or whatever it is. You can use stories to build excitement, give people a peek behind the scenes of what you're doing to in the run up to that. Use the countdown sticker to get people excited about the day in question. Maybe you want to launch a product or a service. Again, you can use stories to help you do that. Maybe you can tell your story of how you came to come up with that product or service, and the feedback that you got that led to it. You can use that and help you to really show why you've developed that in the run up to the launch. And tips and tricks, right? You're the expert in what you do. So you can use stories to share tips and tricks and help people who are following you in your industry to do whatever it is that they're trying to do. Maybe use your product, or you know, for me it would be marketing tips. So 10 ways there that you can use Instagram stories. If you want to read more about these ideas, head over to my blog. These 10 things are from a blog post that I wrote a couple of months ago. So head over there and read that. Okay, stories last for 24 hours, except when you add them to your highlights. Then they're available to view forever, or at least until how long you keep them there from your profile. So let's go through how you do that. Now, remember to keep asking questions. I can see that they're coming in, and I'll go through as many as I can at the end. All right, the first thing I suggest you do is work out how many highlights you want and what they will be called. You can see here that my highlights all have colours, so they're the green circles that the finger is pointing to. And I did this by using a stories template in Canva. I absolutely love Canva. If you're not using it, I really recommend you do. It's very simple to use if you're not a designer, and it can help you create graphics, not only for the stories, for the highlights cover, but also for Instagram posts. So you can see the posts that I've got there in the first row of my grid. All three of those posts were created in Canva. So just start with understanding, write down what it is that you want people to see in your highlights, and decide what that is. Once you've created your cover image, you can add that cover image to the highlight and make it the cover. So I'm going to talk you through this step by step. So to create a new highlight, you're going to select that new button there where it's got a cross in it. You can see that on the left of my highlights. So this is going to take you to a screen where you can name your highlight, and you can select the images from your stories you want to be included. So what I recommend you do is think about what the highlights that you want on your profile, create all the covers, publish them as stories, then go through and create the highlights and pick the relevant cover to add to that highlight. So you go through that process each time, and then you can make that story the cover for that highlight. So what happens if you created a story and then you want to add it to one of your highlights? So when you go into the story, you'll see a heart at the bottom of the screen there. So this is a story, you can see I did it on the 28th of October. Was in Asda doing my shopping and came across shelves and shelves and shelves of mince pies. So I snapped a picture and used the poll sticker with the question "too early" and gave people the option of yes or no. People voted, and as you can see, 80% said no and 20% said yes. So that was the result. And when I tapped into my story and looked at the results, it gave me the option to publish the results to my story, which I did. I used the pen tool in stories and made it this purple color. And if you tap and hold on the screen, it will cover the entire screen in that color. And then I used the eraser to erase out the bit that I wanted people to be able to see. I added, well, it's official, #mincepies, and published that as another story. So from one piece of content, I got 2 stories. So if I wanted to add that to my highlights, I would pick that highlight button at the bottom of my screen. Once you do that, it brings up the list of highlights that you've got on your profile. You tap which one you want to add it to, and that's it, it's done. So think about how you want to use highlights, highlights for your profile. So I'm just going to take a drink. Work out what they are. I've seen some really good use of highlights, and in fact I'm going to go back and revisit mine and change them a little bit, because you can use it for all sorts of things. So I've seen there's a lady I follow, her business is called Lash and Locks, and one of the highlights that she has is her price list, which is great because people want to know how much you're going to charge, right? Another one is services. So think about how you want your business to be represented and what highlights you want people to see when they come to your profile. What story is it that you want to tell about your business, and how is it that you want to help visitors to your profile? Because people do come to look at your profile. If you have a business page on Instagram and you go into your insights, it will tell you on a weekly basis how many people are visiting your profile. So use that space really wisely, and make it work hard for you. And there we have it. I hope I've alleviated some of your nerves and shown you that Instagram stories are not as scary as you first thought. Remember to use stories for ad hoc content. If you don't have something planned out that day, you can snap a photo or a video and use one of the options or even use one of the options under create to put out something. So when you think about it, just do it. Now, being a small business owner, I know the time pressure you're under. You'll leave this webinar full of good intentions of getting shit done. Then business and life will get in the way, and before you know it, you've not done anything. So that's why I'd love to work with you to create your Instagram stories strategy so you can use them creatively and successfully to grow your business. And we can do that in a focused power hour. I've helped countless people like you, and I know I can make a difference to your business. The process is really simple. You head to that URL, and I'll also send this out by email. You fill in your details along with your payment details. Once you've done that, I'll give you access to my calendar to book in your hour. I host all my power hours via Zoom calls, and I record them all, so you can sit back and take in what we discuss without worrying about making notes. And you'll get that recording within 48 hours of our call. Okie pokey, I'm going to leave that up while I look at the questions that you've been asking. So let's have a look at the questions box and see what's been coming through. Okay, Donna has asked, can I bring a few photos together to make a story, thinking of start, middle, end of project? Yes, so what you can do is add each photo. So if you go to the, when you go to your gallery and you've got the multiple photo picker, you choose that and you choose which photos you want. And what it does is it adds each individual photo as a slide in your story. So each photo will be a different story that people can flick through, and you can add your stickers and whatever you want to each story so that you can actually make it a middle, beginning and an end, or a beginning, middle and an end. Graham's put, not on Instagram yet, how do we get followers? So if your target audience is on Instagram, you create your account and start off with your customers, start following your customers on Instagram, and then start looking at other people that you want to follow that are relevant to your business. And as you start following people, they'll start following you back. Engage with them, so comment on their posts, like their posts, give them that engagement so that they see that you're there, and then obviously start posting your own content, make it useful. So people go to Instagram to be inspired. So think about how you can inspire your followers, and they will start following you. How many highlights can you create? Right, so there's no limit to the number of highlights you can have on your screen, but remember that people have to scroll through to see them all, so make it easy for them and not have lots of scrolling. Each highlight can have 100 photo or video stories in it. So once you get to that 100 in a highlight, you'll have to delete some out of there to add more to it. Can you please suggest? Yeah, so with Canva, what I'll do is I'll send out a link in the email. So what I'll do is I'll send out a few follow-up emails so that you don't get overwhelmed by everything in one place. And I'll put a link to Canva in that email so that you can go and get started on that. Kirsty, oh, my glasses are terrible. Kirsty, you're welcome. I'm glad that you found the information useful. Claudette, if I create a story at the start of the day and want to add add to it later? Is it possible? Yes, absolutely. So you can keep adding stories as much as you want. So you just repeat the process that I took you through. Go to the Instagram stories camera, either go to that create menu, or take a picture, or pick one from your gallery, add the stickers, whatever you want to do to it, and add it. And here's the tip. So when you go into Instagram and you see all the little circles at the top of your feed, and those are all the stories that people have created. Now, the ones at the front are the ones that have recently added a story. So that means that if you added one 10 hours ago, and then you add one after 10 hours, your little circle is going to appear at the beginning of that feed. So the more you want people to see it, the more stories you add, the easier it is for people to see, because they won't have to scroll through all those stories. Oh, yeah. Oh, so Natasha has said, I did exactly what you said, followed people, and they followed back. So that's good. That's great to hear. Oh, your account got blocked a few days after. I'm sorry to hear that. I think Instagram kind of is picky about how many how many people you follow in a day. So don't, because I think that they're trying to discourage bots, and I think bots follow lots of people in one go. So don't go off and follow hundreds of people in a day. Be very selective about who you do follow. Make them relevant to what you're doing. You're welcome, Rena. I'm glad that you've found it interesting. So let's a couple of more questions. Should I always tag people in my stories? Right, this is something that is a bit of a bugbear of mine. I don't always appreciate being tagged in content that isn't relevant to me. It's annoying because it's another notification, and if it's not interesting or relevant to me, I find it annoying. It happens to me a lot. It happens to me a lot on Instagram. People will tag me in their posts, will tag me in their stories. It happens on Twitter, on LinkedIn sometimes. So like, really be mindful of when you are tagging people. So do it sparingly and do it with a purpose. So for example, if you're sharing content that a customer has created, then you might want to tag them in that post to thank them for it. And you can share, so you can share Instagram posts to a story. So if you see a customer post and maybe they're talking about your product or service, if you hit the little it looks like a little paper plane underneath the post, that gives you the option to add that post to your story. And at that point, you can tag that person and say, oh, thanks for sharing this. I'm really, really glad that you enjoyed it. I'm really glad that it's helping you. So I think when you're thinking about tagging people, do it with a purpose, and don't do it to annoy people, because we all get so many notifications anyway that it's difficult to it's annoying to get something and it's not really relevant to you. Derek's just put, I've tagged you in my first ever Insta story. Yes, it is absolutely okay, because I asked you to do that because I want to see what you're doing. So if you're doing your first story today and you want to tag me, you want me to see it, then absolutely tag me in it, and I will look at them all after this webinar. Oh, can I see who's viewed my story? Yes, absolutely you can. So when you click into tap into your story, trying to remember where it is. So you tap into your story and it gives you the option. It'll be obvious when you go in, and you'll go into a whole insights menu, and you'll see exactly who's viewed your story. And there are two menus. There are two parts to this menu. So it's who's viewed your story, and then there is another insights bit that shows you exactly what's happened. So if there was an action, maybe you've included a sticker. If anyone's tapped on that sticker, it will tell you how many taps there have been on the sticker. and it will tell you various other things. So absolutely, you can see who has seen your story, and what results, what they've done as a result of it. If you've put a poll in your story, you'll be able to see who voted which way. So with that mince pie poll, I could see exactly who voted yes and who voted no. Are there any apps which we can use to create graphic pics, for instance? There are loads out there. I use Canva. I don't really use any other apps because I find that Canva meets my needs. But in terms of specific apps, with photos, I'm not the best photographer in the world. It's not my skill. I use an app called Snapseed. So it's Snap, as in the card game, and Seed, all one word. And what that lets me do is just sort of edit the photos and make them look nicer. So there are filters, and you can crop them, and there's all sorts of stuff to make them look nicer. Boomerang, the Boomerang app is part of the Instagram camera, but there is a separate Boomerang app that you can use. So if you just want to take boomerangs and don't want to publish them straight away on in your story, you can download the Boomerang app and you can use those boomerangs on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. So yeah, I think on LinkedIn as well, LinkedIn accepts boomerangs now. So there are a number of apps that you can use that will help you create things, but I typically tend to create a lot of my stuff in Canva, or I use pictures that I've taken myself. Can I add my own post to stories? Yes, absolutely. So you can, just as I said that you can add other people's posts to your stories, you can absolutely do that with your own post. It's the same. Once you've published your post, go to that post and you will see that kind of little paper aeroplane symbol under the post, and when you tap on that, it will give you the option to add your post to a story. Can you see old stories? Yes. So if you have a page, I'm not sure about this, I haven't created any stories in my personal profile, but if you have an Instagram page, if you go to Insights, which is you tap on your picture, and then you tap on the, I think it's the 4 lines. Mine's normally at the top. Sorry, I'm just going to have a quick look to remind myself. Yeah, so there are 4 lines at the top of my menu, and if you tap on that, you get into a menu, and if you look at Archive, which is at the top, that's your stories archive, and you can go back and look at all the stories that you've ever posted. So you can see what they are, when you posted them, and I believe when you tap into them, it will tell you how many people saw it, and you can retrospectively, it's got that heart at the bottom, so you can add it. If you forgot to add it to your highlights, you can go and add it to your highlights there. Can you see other people's old stories? No, you cannot. So the deal behind stories is that they're gone. They're gone after 24 hours, unless you go to that person's profile and they have highlights, and they picked the highlights that they want to add to their profile. So that involves you visiting their profile, and you only see the stories that they want you to see, the old ones, because they've added them to their highlights. So you can't look at them all like you can on your profile by going into that archive, but you can look at what they've what they've decided you can see by going to highlights on their profile. Someone just asked me, where did I get the icons for the covers that I made? Again, those are in Canva. So I picked the template. So they have, if you go into Canva and search stories, Instagram stories, it will come up with a template which is the exact size that you need. Sorry, I'm just going to take a drink. It's the exact size that you need to post a story. And then I searched in there for the icons that I wanted. There is also a website, and I can't remember what it's called. Oh, yes, I do. It's called Icon Finder. So there's a website where it's got all manner of icons in it. Some are paid for, some are free, and I'm sure that you can find a lot of things in there. But Canva has a ton of icons in it as well. So I just did that, positioned it. So I positioned the icon in the center, made it quite big, not huge, but big enough that people could see it. Positioned it in the center of the template, so that it really gets into the center of that circle. And again, remember what I suggested is really figuring out the highlights that you want before you go and create them, so that you can do them all in one go. So you create all of your templates, download those, get them on your phone, so save them to your phone, and then go in and create a story with each one of those covers. And once you've got them up there, you tap on that highlight button and add it to the highlight that you want it to be associated with. And when you tap into that highlight, you can choose it as the cover for it. So yeah, do that, and then you've got some nice covers for your highlights. If you don't pick that particular cover, if you don't create one, you can pick any of your photos for your highlights. But I think it's nice to have something that fits in with your brand, that gives people some categories to look at, and gives you a chance to show some of your business, and show things like price lists and services, and maybe even recommendations and reviews and things like that. So you can add all of those things. Can you create stories from any desktop-based apps rather than the phone? I haven't tried it, but I'm using a service called Planoly, which lets me schedule my my Instagram posts. I haven't tried it yet because I just haven't had time to sit down and just work out stories, because I tend to do them ad hoc rather than plan them out. But Planoly has an option for stories in there, which you can then either publish straight away, or I think you can schedule. I should try it. But yeah, I think that's the one that I know of. I don't know of any others. But I mean, I think it's only been a couple of years since Instagram allowed you to schedule posts in advance, because before you had to post them live. So I don't know if everyone has caught up in terms of being able to do stories from desktop. You can actually, in Facebook, from your Facebook page, you can actually publish a story from the desktop version. So you go into your page, and this works on desktop or mobile. You go to your page, and if you select your profile picture, so maybe it's a photo of you or your logo, it will give you the option of adding a story, and you can do that from desktop or mobile. And I think for me, I keep forgetting to put stories on Facebook, but at the moment, hardly anyone is using stories on Facebook. And when you go into your Facebook feed, stories appear right at the top of that feed. So, now's the time to really take advantage, be that first mover in using Facebook stories, because you're going to be seen, because so few people are using them. Natasha's just said, I don't know how to pronounce this. UNUM is also a planning app. So that I'm assuming that helps you plan your Instagram content. I'm not entirely sure that you can create stories from desktop things. So there's Planoly, Canva, absolutely. From desktop, you can create a story, but with Canva, you have to download it and put it on your phone and then share it. Yeah, you can. Liz has just said you can automatically share your Insta stories to your Facebook page. You absolutely can. I find it frustrating because Facebook stories aren't as advanced as Instagram stories, so you've not got all the functionality that I've been through today. So you might do a story on Instagram using one of those create templates, perhaps a poll, I'm not entirely sure that if you share it to your Facebook page that people can actually answer the question in the poll. So I would test that and make sure that it does work in the same way as it does in Instagram on Facebook. Facebook stories, brilliant if you're running an event, because you can if you've got the event created in Facebook, so if you've got a Facebook event, you can link straight to that from a Facebook story. Is this webinar available for download? Yeah, I'm going to recording it, so I'm going to send out a recording to everyone via email in the next couple of days. It's a bit of a process because I have to download it from this webinar platform, which takes a while because it's quite huge, and then I have to upload it to my YouTube channel, which again takes a little while. So you will get it in the next couple of days. I'm going to be working on that this afternoon, so as soon as it's ready, I will send it out to everyone. Any more questions? I can't see any more. Well, we're 5 minutes before the end, but I know that we're all busy people and we've all got things to do. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you've had a really good overview of what you can do with Instagram stories and how you can get started. And I think this step-by-step process is important because, you know, sometimes you don't have time to work it out yourself, but also it is a little bit scary. And if you don't know how to get started, I hope I've really shown you can do that. As soon as this webinar ends, you'll get a little survey from me. It's only got 4 questions, and I really appreciate it if you could answer those so that I can continue to improve my webinars. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, you'll receive the recording in the next few days, and I really hope that you enjoy using Instagram stories. Have a really great day, and I'm looking forward to seeing the stories that I have been tagged in on. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.